Welcome everybody to this evening's school board budget workshop for our 2017-2018 school budget. Before I begin, I'd like to hand the mic over to Elizabeth Seifries, who would like to say a few words.
So welcome everybody. Thank you for giving your time to this long evening. Thank you for giving your time to educate our students and to work on this super fun budget, trying to keep it light. The board recognizes the incredible amount of work that people put into planning and budgeting for the education of our students. And the board understands that what we are going to see tonight isn't what people started out with, and nor what people thought that we would actually see, because, you know, cuts have to be made along the way and compromises made. And understanding that after that major subsidy cut came in, that a lot of triage had to be done without necessarily input from all the departments. The board understands that people will need to advocate that maybe some of those changes weren't the right changes to be made, and so we understand that, and we hope that administrators and department heads will go ahead and please do that, but also at the same time understand that the board will expect to see a way to mitigate those changes, so that, you know, we understand trade-offs will have to be made, and that you know, whatever it is that you need to advocate for will probably have to be, it'll have to be, you know, found somewhere else to cover that. So thank you everybody, and back over to Joe.
Thank you, Elizabeth, our fearless school board chair. And I'd also like to send out a special thanks to our interim superintendent, Howard Coulter, for taking the reins while we have a thoughtful and comprehensive search for our new leader. Your level hand has had a tremendous impact on our district, so please, thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge the artwork on our budget binders from one of our lovely school students. Thank you, Catherine, for searching through the stockpile of fabulous district art for that. It's a nice constant reminder of what this budget is all about. As we've stated in the past, one of our most valuable assets are the people who work in our schools. Our teachers, support staff, facilities, transportation, and our administration. Our cadre of dedicated professionals are among the brightest and best and most dedicated around. They deserve our deepest gratitude for fostering intellectual curiosity while delivering on academic excellence. And again, congratulations to the science and math team for winning state championships as an example. They also, like everyone else who works, receive cost of living increases every year. And while enrollment has slowly declined over the years, the needs of our students and the profession of teaching have grown increasingly complex. This budget reflects those realities. This is not a typical budget year. Howard, in response to news from Augusta, as Elizabeth just outlined, has had to remove large portions of the budget in order to get us down to the 1.6% budget increase. In the hours ahead, we will explore just what some of those cuts mean. That brings us to tonight's expanded workshop. If you're just tuning in, we're trying something new this year. We have restructured the review of the school board budget, so please listen carefully as the options have changed. As you just heard from Elizabeth and last week from Howard, our budget challenges include an $800,000 decrease in state aid to our district. To help offset that, the budget proposal is making one of the largest drawdowns from the school department's undesignated fund ever. We'll continue to hear more about the unfolding challenges in Augusta as that story has yet to finish unwinding. It's worth noting, however, that over the last 2 years, the funding to our district has decreased a total of $1.6 million. There's not a lot of fat in this budget. As you also heard from Elizabeth, in order to meet this year's shortfall, Howard has had to also make some difficult choices, and we're looking forward to hearing how some of those choices can weigh against what has been left in the budget. So on to this evening. This is how things will unfold, as again, this is sort of a new process for us. In the past, our department heads over several weeks have presented their budgets from week to week. They have tried their best to answer questions posed to them on the spot or getting back to us in a following week with follow-up. This has left some lag time, and it doesn't leave time and space for a comprehensive story. So tonight, we're hoping to hear from each of our department heads on their budgets over the next 3.5 hours. This is a listening session only. What we will do is at the end of this session, we ask that you email Elizabeth Seifries or Howard any substantive questions that you have on the content within the budget. If you could please submit those questions to us by March 14th. Our next scheduled budget workshop is for Tuesday, March 21st, at which time we will then ask, please kindly, our department heads or whoever those questions were posed to present the answers that they have been able to then meaningfully and thoughtfully research for our benefit. Then following up from that, on Tuesday, March 28th, we'll hear any outstanding questions, as well as having a straw poll on whether or not we're ready to send to the town council. On Tuesday, April 25th, we will present our budget to the town council finance committee. Usually those have historically taken place around 7 o'clock in the town hall basement. And then on Monday, May 8th, the town council will hold a public hearing on the entire municipal budget. Traditionally, that evening has included each budget item within the whole district as a separate agenda item, the school board budget being one of those agenda items. I haven't heard that is going to change at all. And then on Monday, May 15th, the town council is scheduled to vote on whether or not to send the school board budget to the referendum. And then on Tuesday, finally, June 13th, the voters get their say. So just as a reminder, all this information can be found on our district website. If you just go to our homepage, at the top there's a link that says 2017-2018 school board budget. And in there you will find agendas and all of the handouts and all of the content within our binders. And then also navigating around the site, you can find previous year's budget histories for your reference. So there's the lowdown. Here's how we're going to take it through. And I'm going to hand things over now to our business manager, Catherine Messmer, who will walk us through each department and then the department heads and collaborate that. So
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for attending. The first thing I'm going to do, bless you, is last week we did have some questions and requests, so I've made out some handouts for those. So I will hand those out first before we start going through the budget. The first thing I'm handing out is we had a slide set up behind us called Major Teaching and Learning Considerations, so I am handing that out. If there are any extras, they will go around and Greg will set them either on the chair behind him or on the podium, so if anybody would like them. And also, as Joe said, all the handouts that are new tonight will be on the board school budget website by 4 p.m. tomorrow. That's one of my goals, is to get everything uploaded to the website so the public can have access to it. So that's the first handout. The second handout I have is the fund balance handout. And what I'm handing out now, the reason why I redid that is because it was asked last week what if there were any criterias or limits to how much of a fund balance we should have. And I contacted our auditor, actually, to make sure I was on the right track. And what she said was that the state requires us to have a fund balance less than 3% of our budget. So what I'm handing out now goes back about 6 years, and it shows, I've added a column showing 3% of our budget for that year, so you can see how the fund balance compares to what the 3% limit is that the DOE has. And as I said, we are not supposed to go over that amount. They don't care how little fund balance we have. They don't want us to have more than 3%. And the town does have a policy about how much of a fund balance they require. And the auditor said to me that the fund balance for this fund balance for the school is totally separate from the town's limit, because all money that, of the schools, is set aside for the schools. So on the town's audit report, that money is assigned, I mean, it has a special item for, it's set aside for something particular, it's set aside for the school department, so technically, the town does not include that in its unassigned balance. So that's what the auditor said, so that's why I redid that paperwork for you to put in your binders. The next sheet, when I was working on updating the budget website, I'm handing out a criteria for distinguishing supply items from equipment items, because it's just like a refresher. I thought it would be helpful information for people on the website. So my rule is I don't want to put it on the website unless I've given it to you guys first. So I've already put it on the website, so I'm backwards on this one. But this sheet shows the difference between an item that's a supply and an item that's equipment. And the bottom line, equipment is really more big ticket items. So last year, we made a lot of changes to the budget, pulling items from equipment into supply lines. And this year, we're kind of just tweaking a little more, but I thought it'd be helpful for people to see that there is a criteria that we should follow in order to differentiate between supplies and equipment. And most things are supplies. So the next handout I have, and I gotta admit, I don't like killing all these trees. I only made 20 copies. If there aren't enough copies for people, it will be on the website by tomorrow afternoon. The next one I'm handing out is a chart showing enrollment compared to professional staffing levels. And Joe had requested that I actually put the numbers on it, which I think was a great suggestion, so I added the numbers to it.
Thank you.
So, but then somebody pointed out to me that over time, we lost a lot of other staff besides professionals, as in ed techs and other positions. So I went, that's a good point. So I went and made a spreadsheet or a chart showing our enrollment compared to all staff levels over several years. So what this chart shows is the top red line is the staff. In order to get all this information on one chart, I had to take the enrollment figures and multiply it by 10%, so they're in hundreds as well as the staff numbers are in hundreds. So this next chart I'm handing out, the top red number is the staff, and the lower pinkish number is enrollment times 10%. And you can see how they went up and down together, but the last couple of years, enrollment has steadily dropped, but our staffing has pretty much stayed stable. So I just wanted to put that out there just to make sure. It was a question I had the information, I figured I'd throw it out there so people could see what the real facts were on that item. I'm not gonna talk about alternative facts. Sorry, I was trying not to go there. Okay, the next handout I have for you guys is other staffing by school. I believe this was requested last week, that people wanted to see what other staff we had in the schools. This does not include central office or our technology department or custodians. This is just the actual school education staffing. And so you can see how many art teachers we have, how many guidance counselors we have. It's broken out that way. So that was a request from last week, so I knew we'd done, as you guys said last week, we had done something similar, so I went, I know which one they're talking about, so I did pull that out and update it for this year's figures. I'm almost done with handouts. Okay, another new thing that we did this year is we have these forms that We have new program position evaluation forms, and I may have explained this last week, is these are positions that we'd added to the budget for this current year, and these were to evaluate how those positions, how well did they do, and if they worked out, and were they a good idea to keep. And then we have another addition to our budget information, is that we have new program and position proposals for this year. And so what I'm handing out now is for the middle school. We have a proposal, I'll throw one here, to add another teacher to the middle school, and that part of that has to do with enrollment, and Mike will talk to that more when we get to that point in the budget. And then next, we have three proposals, three new program position proposals that I'm adding to the ones that were already in your binder. This next one is for facilities. And here's one for you. And we had talked about it last week, but we initially proposed 2 new custodians for the high school and other areas. So that's what this proposal is. It's for 2 custodians. There is only currently 1 additional custodian in the budget, but we wanted you to find out what the original thought was behind these positions. So that's what that one is. And the last program, new program position proposal that I have is for a nursing administrative assistant. We had one in the budget several years ago, but it had been taken away. But it is felt by the nursing staff and others in the school department that this would be a very helpful and useful position to have. It's not currently in the budget, but it was when we first started this out, so we thought, here's another one that we wanted you to see what our thought process was behind that. So while that's going around, the next, and so as Joe explained, this is a new process for us, bear with us. We're trying to get you the information that we can, hopefully in a comprehensive and understandable format. So what I'm going through now is, in our budget binder under handout is the budget categories sheet, and right behind that is the appropriation budget master report. This is the report that's on the website. If you go to this 2017-2018 budget, it's the one with the cover picture on there. So that's what we're going through tonight. And we'll be going through it page by page, not line by line. I don't want to bore you that bad. This is going to be boring enough for some people. But the very first page is called Budget Categories. And that is based on state law, Title 20A, subsection 1485. We are by law required to break out our budget in this format. So that's why I always use this as the cover sheet, because by law, if we overexpand one of these 11 categories, we have to go to the school board for approval to transfer monies in between. So that this is required by law. So this is kind of like my major guideline to follow by. So I'm looking at page 1 of the appropriation budget master report. It's this is an actual printout from our accounting software. And we start with regular instruction Pond Cove. So I'm going to hand it over to Kelly to bring up to present what she feels is important for the budget, and then I'll go through page by page and kind of point out what the other items that we are of importance or of knowledge or something like that. Go for it, Kelly.
Good evening, thank you. So I am going to present to you, I'm going to use my allocated time really to advocate for what I see as our number one priority this evening, and I'm happy to answer any other questions regarding the Concord budget, which in concept is essentially what you would normally be seeing, and we did do a zero-based budgeting. I don't want to give the impression that our supplies and books that we just took last year's whatsoever. We did build it from the ground with the staff. Staff gave input, all teams did, but we really have a priority that I think is really, really important for you to hear that currently is not in the budget because of the state cuts. However, it is in the binder, which was included last week, so you have that proposal. I'm going to explain a little bit, and I'm going to give you two handouts. Actually, I gave you two handouts. I'm going to talk to you about those two handouts. One is the student data that supports the need for this. The second is the comparative staffing data that Cumberland, Falmouth, and Yarmouth have compared to what Ponco has, and I think it's very relevant in terms of why we need this, and why it's so compelling. So I proposed for the addition of 5 regular education ed techs, and this is the 5th year, frankly, that we have not had this support that has been critically needed. 6 years ago, there was a significant reduction in ed techs, and over time, what that has done, if you think of and the reduction was about 13 ed techs. So just to give you an idea about that, and I think you have that data as well. But if you think about deficiencies over time, so you think about if you need, someone needs nourishment and in terms of vitamins, it's one thing, goes 1 year, but over time, that deficiency becomes compounded. And that is what's happened at Ponco. And I would say that our staff does a heroic job of providing for our students academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally, so many things that they do that really is within their job description, but also is above and beyond because of the dearth of support staff that we have. And I will say that, and also the support staff that we do have really goes above and beyond on what we need to accomplish. The need for this is particularly when you think about where we are as in the K-12 continuum. Early intervention is the most critical. And you're going to have the investment on early intervention is above and beyond your return for investment. More often than not, you're going to be having fewer referrals that are, fewer unnecessary referrals, fewer students who may be going into special education because they have had the support at the earliest level. And you hear over and over, if students aren't reading on grade level by the time they're in 3rd grade, then that gap is going to continue to widen. At Ponco, we want them to be reading on grade level in 1st grade. So it's not, for us, it's not good enough. We really see it this way. And as far as ed techs, we're looking at response to intervention. We can provide those tiered supports. We can, and the magic number of 5 is 1 per grade level. That's really, and ideally we would want more. I've put proposals in the last 4 budgets that haven't made it this far. So we're so grateful that we even have this time to be able to speak about it. And it's as far as where we are without them, the gap is widened, and I just want you, if you wouldn't mind referring to this data. And you've seen the MEA data that I've also included just as comparison. The MEA data is on the last page. And if you, let's start with that first. This is last year, this is the spring of last year, even though it's grades 3 and 4 from last year. If you're looking at this from last year, go to the far right column. And you can see, you'll be able to, you'll see the breakdown of where students are from above state expectations to well below. But those numbers in red at the far right column, those are the students who really need support. Now, currently, they're in grades 4 and 5, because we do not have this year's MEA. We haven't taken this year's MEA yet. There are some of these students that are in special education. There are a few that are ELL, and I have those numbers. I'm happy to provide those for you. But overall, it's not so significant that it would highlight, oh, that's because 25 of them are in special education. That's not the case. Okay, so it's really important to see the numbers and to separate it from just the percentages. So I wanted you to have a glimpse of that, and you can see the top is reading and the bottom is math. And I know that you've had this data before, but I really wanted to parse out grades 3 and 4 from last year, so you'd have a sense about that, on what that looks like from a state assessment. And albeit this was the first time last year that we were taking Empower Me. We'll know more this coming year after the students take it within the next few weeks. But this is something I think is pretty compelling for the need for support. The next 2 pages, and if you can start on the first page, this is our STAR assessment. This is our universal screener that we give to grades over time, K through 4. Kindergarten, I can talk more about kindergarten assessments, but those are a little bit more tricky in terms of reporting out to you in a hard and fast overall number, such as the upper grades. So I wanted to focus on, this is for math, I wanted to focus on grades 1 through 4. And so you can see how it's broken down with, it gives the number of students enrolled, and there's a comparison. We do fall, winter, and spring. So you can see where it's broken down to at or above proficiency and below proficiency. And that's how the STAR breaks it down. And unlike the MEA, it's not 4, it's 2 different sections, but you can see that. Now, it's great. There's been you can see there's been growth, and the number in red shows the number of students who the number of students who where they scored, and then the lower number, the denominator, shows the number who were tested. So, for example, 79 over 98. So you can see 79 out of 98 students in first grade that were tested for math in the fall were at or above proficiency, and that was 81%. In winter, it was 85 out of 100 that were tested, and that was 85%. They made a growth. If you look at, for those who are below proficiency, so moving into that section, 19 out of 98 tested were below proficiency. And in winter, 15 out of 100 tested were below proficiency. Some growth, but not enough. And you can see the needs. So and there are a few students that are in special education within that group, but overall, it is something that is concerning to us. And you can see for grade 2 the same. And I'll just have you move to. We've made some significant gains from fall to winter for grade 2 from having 71% to there's a 10% growth for that from fall to winter in math for grade 2. But then again, and there's a 10% decline in grade 2 for those who were below proficiency. However, it's still 22 students who are below proficiency. So that is still, there are names behind that number, and so that's concerning for us. And then grades 3 and 4, we did not see the growth that we saw in the earlier grades. And part of that, we believe, is because we do not have enough support. We have more support at the early level. We don't feel we have enough as far as like getting that tiered support in for response to intervention. So I just wanted to show you that. And if you look at the very bottom from when you see tallied up, so in the fall there were 90 students who were below proficiency. This is grades 1 through 4. And in the winter assessments, 78 students. Again, 78 students, if you think of that, and there are some children who are in special education, but you think of 78 students, that essentially is 4 classes. So even though but it's spread out. So think of that, think of four classrooms of students. So I think we believe it's really compelling. And then if you move on to the next page, this is grades 2 through 4. And you'll see on the very bottom, first grade in STAR takes what we call the early literacy assessment, and that is parsed out by different components of reading. That is not just one overall score. So rather than tease out all the complexities for this evening of that, it was just easier to give you an overview. So, and we do not yet have the results for winter. The window closes on March 10th. But out of 101 first graders, 37 of them in the fall scored below 50% on the STAR. So going up to grade 2, you can see, again, this is reading, you can see that for second grade, they did make some significant gains from going 66% at or above proficiency to jump to 78% for winter. And looking at below proficiency, 34% scored below proficiency, and that was reduced to 22%. But if you look at the number, that's 25 students. So again, there is growth, and we're happy about that. But with more support through the form of ed techs that can provide that really critical response to intervention, we believe that we can really, really reduce those numbers. And then you can also see at grades 3 and 4, it was more flat as far as there were gains. I shouldn't say it was more flat, but it was not as significant as above. So for grades 3, fall went from 85 to 91 for at and above proficiency, and then below proficiency was reduced from 27 students down to 20, and then in grade 4 tested quite strongly for those at or above proficiency. In the fall, 92, and then it went up to 98. So you can see 79%, and then that bumped up to 85%. But moving to the below proficiency piece, we have 24 students who performed below proficiency, and then it was reduced to 17, but again, it's the numbers. And so if you look down, we went from 89 students who were scoring below proficiency on this assessment to 62, but it's still 62 students. And this is just 3 grade levels. So again, going back to thinking about it as three classrooms. So this for us was pretty compelling, and it shows we've seen this as far as over time, it seems to just keep coming back to that early intervention that is needed, in addition to moving up to provide the support as reading becomes more complex for students in grades 3 and 4. We need that support for them as well. It's becoming, we're seeing particularly, and this is for reading, but reading and writing in 4th grade, it's, we just had a professional development specialist come and work with us yesterday, but 4th grade gets into the development of writing, and that's something that we found to be really critical, and that need for support. And I just want you to look at the next handout on the comparative data. And this is pretty compelling when you look at Cumberland, Falmouth, and Yarmouth, the type of support they have, and I didn't limit it just to Ed Tech 3s for RTI support. I thought it would be helpful to see, we've done this 2 years in a row, and we verified, you can see on the bottom, everything was verified in December and January, that if you look at the Ed Tech support that the other 3 districts have at the elementary level, and I have broken it down so you can see just where that support is. But if you look at Cumberland for Ed Tech 3s, in their elementary, they have 14 regular ed techs for their RTI support. Falmouth has 15 and a half. Yarmouth has 6 for their K-4 school, and Pond Cove has 2. And so that's significant. That is really significant, and that was, and we've had that for 5 years. So this is the 5th year in a row that we've had that. Other support, interestingly, Falmouth, when I spoke to their instructional strategist in Falmouth, and she explained to me they also have additional non-RTI Ed Tech 3s. They're 8 part-time Ed Techs, and they have different hours, but they're there to assist in classrooms, to provide, to do lunch duties, to provide planning time for teachers. So in addition to that, they have that. I'm not asking for all that yet. And then when you go down to interventionists for teachers, that breaks it down, so you can see we're a little bit closer, but we're still behind. We have 3.5 interventionists, and you can see that the other 3 schools have more. And for behavior teachers, and that is different from, you'll see down on the next page at the top, there's behavior specialists. So behavior teachers are those that can be in there working directly and providing that RTI support. And you can see that what the others have, we have 0. And behavior specialist would be a BCBA specialist. And then you can see gifted and talented. And then also at the bottom, you can see the number of regular education classes for grades K through 4, so that you get a sense about the comparison. That's what I wanted to focus on.
And
Talk a lot more, but.
And, yeah, I told everybody they had 15 minutes, and I actually started set my time, and I said, I have a phone with a timer, and I won't be afraid to use it. And I initially set it for 10 minutes, and I'd forgotten I'd turn my sound off, and I'm like, wait a minute, something should be going off. So you got 16 minutes, I just want to let you know. So, I'll thank you very much, Kelly. And so any questions? Yes, Joe?
Is it possible to walk through the budget proposal?
For the RTI, the ed
Well,
techs?
for Pond Cove, the numbers,
Well,
there's a
that's,
sheet.
give me a second.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That's what the building principals were gonna present to
Oh,
us.
no, so you gotta bear with us, this is
Okay.
new and different.
see, I
And
hit the button before I listened to all the options, I'm so
Oh.
sorry.
so what the goal was we're gonna go through the budget report page by page. I will do the page by page, but I wanted the administrators to kinda, when we get to their section, I'm gonna have them talk about what issues that they feel is important and things like that, and I'll do the nitty-gritty number, boring stuff.
Fantastic.
So that's
you.
what I'm gonna do now. We're on page 1 of that lovely appropriation budget master report that's behind that category report on the website. And at the very top, you'll see salaries for teachers, salaries for ed techs. There are no RTI ed techs budgeted here. This is where they would be budgeted. But because of the curtailments with the DOE subsidy and stuff, we took them out. And the one reason why we took them out is because nobody would lose their jobs. These are positions that we don't have yet. So it wasn't easy, but at least nobody lost their jobs by taking these out. So that's why they were removed. So to go down,
I'm sorry, because this form is very dense, if you could please just quickly, so salary line 1010, teacher salary, and then under the column that says manager requested, 2017, 2018, that's excuse me, I'm trying to read that tiny number,
$2 million,
$2 million.
716, yeah.
And then the next line under that is line 1020.
Yes.
Salary ed tech, and that's for 52,000?
Yep,
Okay, so there is
52,000.
at least one.
Oh, there's two.
There's two.
Yeah, we do have two
Okay.
ed techs.
Thank you. I'm
so
sorry.
that's
I thought I
something.
heard you say there were none.
Well, there were no additional, there
No
were none of the
additional.
5 additional RTI ed techs in there. We do have 2 currently at Pond Cove.
And so there are 2, the initial request was 5 more, or what was the initial?
Yeah, 5 more.
5 more.
Okay.
For a
Yeah.
total of 7.
So as I said, this is a new format for us too, so please let me know if I'm talking too fast or if you need clarification.
Just want to make sure.
And that account, 1010 salary for teachers, you will see that throughout the report. It is salary for teachers. This is the report that we upload to the Maine Department of Education quarterly. And they do require certain accounts and to be used for particular things because they use this information to help calculate subsidy and to help get information on other things, like we have federal grants that they use this information for maintenance of effort and things like that. So that's why I've been working since I started here to try to make this as accurate as possible, because I think it's best to give the state the most accurate information that we can provide. So that's what I'm working on. I don't always get there, but I try. So I didn't want to go down line by line, but I just want to kind of pull out the big tickets. You'll do notice, if you continue down, account number 2010, we're still in Department 8700. Account number 2010, benefits for teachers. That is a drop of 21,000. That is only 3%. But what that is because we had several different staff change their health insurance. And that somebody may have had family and they reduced it to 2-person or things like that. So that really affects what our health insurance is. So to continue down, account number 2300 that says retirement stipends, all those retirement accounts, it says 3.36% from Maine PERS. Maine PERS stands for Maine State Retirement. And I just got notified yesterday that the rate is actually 3.97%. It has gone up. And just on professional staff, any staff who's covered under the teacher bargaining agreement, that's an increase of $67,000 that we do not have in the budget. So I wanted you guys to be aware of that is something that we probably should add at some point. I was not happy when I found out these figures.
Like I said, the story from Augusta just keeps unwinding.
It gets better and better.
and better.
So we have several retirement accounts. They are broken out based on the positions, because that's how the DOE wants us to report, by position. And then so we come down to account number 3400, professional services. It says responsive classroom. That is a program that we would like to start with kindergarten and first grade. So I'd like Kelly to maybe explain a little bit more of what that is.
Responsive classroom, and several people have been trained in it, but for the last 20 years, responsive classroom is really it's like a social skills model, if you will, on building community and setting clear expectations school-wide. It happens school-wide and also in the community, so that in this classroom community, so that there is common language, common expectations, and the research, well, I shouldn't say the research, what we know, because I can't cite research on it, but, and Jessica also can concur on this, but the schools that have responsive classroom embedded within their culture is shown to reduce behavior issues, so that students really have an understanding of what's expected from classroom to classroom. Our currently, our Allied Arts team there's a special responsive classroom model for Allied Arts. They are currently doing a book group on using that. And so students go from classroom, they go to art, everything is the same, and all the expectations are the same, and it's a wonderful model. I used it I was trained in it years ago, and we actually hosted it for a week. We were a site at Pond Cove, and it's outstanding. It's really.
Excellent, thank you. Oops, Susanna?
Sorry, Kelly, how would that be implemented? What does that cost represent?
So initially I put in $20,000, but, so it's, what we would do, and I've been in touch with Responsive Classroom, contingent on, but they would come and they would train on site. They would be working with us over time. It stems from the Northeast Foundation for Children out of Greenfield, Mass. Originally, now they're in a different location, but they're all in Western Mass. And currently, teachers can go and be trained on a week-long in-service workshop, which is, right now it costs $729 per teacher, and they have them locally. We actually don't have one local this summer, but I think New Hampshire has the closest, but that's what they would do.
Would that be in the summer?
It would be, what we would do is they would be coming in through the school year too, so ideally it would be in the to start, to kick it off.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you so much for answering such in-depth questions on the spot. I just wanted to remind everyone that although I was curious too, and I'm finding it really hard not to jump in, we do have a long session in front of us, and we're hoping to take those more substantive questions via email and give you time to gather a thoughtful response. Thank you.
So when we meet again on March 21st, we'll have Kelly do more in-depth explanation of what Responsive Classroom is, which is great.
Sure,
because
we'll
it's
come up
quite
with some
appropriate.
questions for you.
So I just.
One last. Unless, of course, the question has been answered. So, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on. We were talking about Responsive Classroom, account number 3400. The other accounts below that, equipment repairs, very small account. You'll see supplies and books throughout the entire budget. You'll also see equipment. As I handed out earlier, there is a criteria between what is equipment, what is supplies. We are currently proposing for next year's budget to budget $5,000 for furniture replacement for one classroom. We try to do that because we know over time the furniture does start to wear out and break down. So we're trying to do this on a regular basis to replace classroom furniture instead of waiting for it to all break out and try to buy it all at once, which is not really fair and not really a good process. So, and the last item under that area is 8,100 dues and fees. That is for teacher memberships primarily, to help support our teachers in their work here at, where am I? Cape Elizabeth. So we're down to departments 8705. This section's probably going to take slower because I'm pointing out all the different accounts, but as we move along, a lot of these accounts, or all of them, keep getting repeated. So, so this is going to take a little longer. But under guidance, Pond Cove, Department 8705, you'll see teacher salary and benefits and retirement again. And this area has a 3,300 account for professional development. This is for conferences and workshops. The DOE keeps kind of changing how they want us to report stuff. I always thought it was under dues and fees, but they're like, no, you're wrong. It should be under professional development. So this is a new account that you will see throughout the entire budget. And what we are using for this year as a basis is $300 per professional. So we have 2 guidance counselors at Pond Cove, and so that's why it's $600, $300 for each professional. That's not saying that each conference costs that much. It probably, some of them are less than that. Some of them, the conference may be only $100, but they have to travel somewhere to go to it. We do have money for travel, which is the next account not underneath, $5,800 for travel. what we budgeted there is 40% of what we budgeted under professional development. So, but as I said, some conferences are less, but the travel may be more. So what I request is that you charge the correct lines, and if you overexpend in one area, you have money left over in the other to help offset it. So, I mean, as you all know, a budget is a best guess scenario. We don't know for sure what's going to come up. We have a pretty good idea, but we don't know for sure, so that's what we're doing with this. And as you can see, there's supplies again, and books and periodicals, and dues and fees. We have that broken out for memberships for all the departments such as guidance and social work and library and stuff. They all have their own dues and fees accounts. So page 2. We are now to Department 8715, which is library and media for Pond Cove. You see salary for the librarian. The salary for the ed tech dropped compared to last year, and that's because we changed what percentage what percentage is being charged here versus what percentage is used. For the other half, this person, besides being a librarian ed tech, also does clerical work for the special ed department. So she's now being charged 50% to Pond Cove, 50% to special ed, whereas before I believe she was like 60% Pond Cove, 40% special ed. So that's why you see the drop in all of her salary and benefit lines. She also, the library also has professional development. There's only one professional staff there, so that's why the amount is 300. Travel is 40% of that. Then we have supplies, books and periodicals, audiovisual dues and fees, the usual accounts. Technology has been moved to department number 9071, so we'll talk about that at the end of the budget. We're now at Department 8720, Office of the Principal. You'll see salary and benefit lines for the principal and the assistant principal and the office secretaries. We do have the retirement for a secretary, if they take Maine State retirement, is called participating local district. They're not part of the teacher group. This is all boring Maine State retirement stuff. But the charge for PLD, participating local district, is different than the teacher group, so that's why that is such a high increase. They also have staff development. This is only for the administrators and the administration staff, the school secretaries. We did budget, there is a 3,400 professional services line. That's where we used to budget for our time clock and absentee software. After talking many emails back and forth with the DOE, I was told that those type of items should be budgeted for under the account number 6500, which is software and computer supplies and software. So that has been moved to a 6500 account. So you can see under this year, 2017, 2018, it's 0. We have a copier printer maintenance line and a copier printer lease line. We are in the throes of a request for proposal for copiers and printers, so we don't have actual amounts for those yet, and we won't until the end of April, if not mid-May. So these are placeholders. I'm hoping we can come in less, but I'm not holding my breath that that's going to happen. So those are only placeholders. Every principal's area does have a postage account. Travel is based on 40% of their professional development line. They also have supplies and books. And then here's the 60. I'm on page 3. Account number 6500. That is where our time clock and absentee software has been moved to. And we are also purchasing TeachPoint software, which is to help with evaluations, and I believe Kathy will probably talk to that more when she when we get to her area. I'm warning her right now. So we are now page 3, Department 8725, Improvement of Instruction. That has been moved to Department 9008, and we'll talk to that more when we get down there. 8730 is health services, Pond Cove, that's the nurse. And as you can see, there are accountant lines in there for for secretary, salaries and benefits for a secretary. So this is actually, it had been in there, I believe, in the past, and then it was cut out, and we do have a proposal for that again for this year, and we did have it initially in the budget, but it was one of the areas we felt we could cut at this time because nobody would be losing their jobs. Doesn't mean it's the best thing for the school department. It was just relatively easy at that point. And so you're going to start to see the same thing. I've already talked about professional development. Under the health accounts, there is an account 3400 for school physicians. We do have a physician that we keep as for, not referrals, but to check things with and stuff. We do pay a physician a stipend every year. It's $1,000 total, which is split between the 3 schools. And then you'll see the same travel, supplies, equipment, dues and fees. We are now at department number 8740, which is co-curricular. The salaries for stipends, it doesn't say salaries, it says stipends. The stipends for co-curricular is based on the teacher bargaining agreement. I've turned to page 4 now. The only thing under co-curricular is salaries and benefits. Then we are now at Department 8750. Those accounts have either a large increase or a large decrease. One thing is, the reason why we have large increases is because technically, let me put it this way, we are moving the budget out of the self-contained accounts. You see right below that is Department 8751, Special Ed K through 4 are self-contained. Technically, Cape Elizabeth does not have self-contained classrooms. So we are no longer using those account codes. So that's why you'll see large increases in some of the other special ed departments, because we're moving we're not using those self-contained codes anymore. And also, you'll see that we have large decreases under ed techs. We are moving ed techs around to get the best need of the student. So you'll see, if we have a decrease here, you'll see increases in other schools. So there is quite a bit of movement. But that's one thing about this category sheet that's at the very front. The second group is special ed, and overall, it's a 4% increase overall for special ed, even though it looks bigger and less here. Okay, so I'm in Department 8800, which is regular instruction middle school. I'm gonna give Mike some time to talk about what he feels is important with the
Can I
budget
ask
this year.
a quick clarifier?
Sure.
The 3,300 line for professional development at 300 per?
Yeah.
I don't see in regular instruction?
No,
Is that
that's a
right?
good question. All that professional development is included under improvement of instruction, which
Yep.
is departments
Okay.
9008, 9009, 9010.
I
Yes,
figured, I
John?
just wanted to
Also, the 67,000 impact for the increase in main PERS, was that across all categories, or was that just the regular instruction category?
That was across all categories for professional staff. I mean, that includes social workers and guidance
Right.
and librarians
So
and
that's
stuff like that.
total.
That's total. Yeah.
That
So
was-
the 67,000 is just for Pond Cove?
No, that's broken up for the entire
Okay.
school district, but it's only professional staff. So other staff that, ed techs also have to pay Maine State Retirement, and so there'll be increases there also, and that's spread out mainly between regular instruction and special ed.
Thank you.
Okay, go for it, Mike.
Thank you, Catherine. Good evening, everyone. You should have received two-page insert that says for middle school section. You may have already put it in, and if you haven't, if you did not get one, if you could let Greg know, and here are the extras, Greg. Everyone already received it, and I don't see it. Thank you. So for the beginning of my time, there are two areas I'd like to speak about regarding the budget proposal for middle school. One is the proposed middle school staffing of 25 classroom teachers and the impact on class sizes. and the second involves intervention and support for students performing below expectations. So first, I'd like to direct your attention to the proposed middle school class sizes document, which was what you've just added to your middle school tab, and it has the yellow highlighting on it. You may also, while I'm talking, want to cross-reference the following within your enrollment and staffing section. There's the student-teacher ratios for Pond Cove and middle school FY 17-18, the new and withdrawn student historical data, the CEHS class size student load analysis, and reference of the policy 2B class sizes. In addition to that, there's the new position proposal for FY 17-18 for a middle school teacher, which was handed out at the start of the meeting. So first, I'd like to direct your, I'll take you through the proposed middle school class sizes document, and that's, again, the one with the yellow highlighting on it. And first, I did want to say I absolutely respect and appreciate the superintendent's efforts to propose a budget following the recent news of the possible reduction of the state subsidy to Cape Elizabeth of over $800,000. A monumental task, and I completely appreciate what he needed to do and had to do. My hope tonight is to talk about some of those proposed changes and why some of them I would like to have for a conversation, and hopefully we can talk about whether we still agree those are the best ideas in light of the information that we have, and again, with all due respect. The yellow highlights represent one way of allocating 25 teaching positions that are currently reflected in the budget proposal on the student-teacher ratios for Pond Cove Middle School FY 17-18. So originally, after receiving that information, the middle school currently has 25 teaching positions. Going through proposing of keeping that level of staffing the same. One way of allocating those 25 positions across the middle school for classroom positions could be to have 5 teachers at 5th grade, 7 at 6, 6 at 7th, 7 at 8th. So just in terms of talking about overall positions, in terms of how we allocate them is less the issue in terms of really talking about the fact that the middle school needs 26 teaching positions, and I can talk to you a little bit about why we feel that at the middle school. The chart reflects the 5 teachers at grade 5. If that's the area where 5 teachers were assigned, would give us an average class size of 23.8 students. And I do use the word average because those the students don't divide absolutely equally across all classes for a variety of reasons. I know the board understands that. So I wanted to illustrate the nature of the anticipated cohort sizes and the impact on the average class sizes across the middle school as we consider the allocation of teachers and the impact on those class sizes. Simply having 2 new enrollments at grade 5 would have that average class size in grade 5 exceed 24 students. And so if we go to part of what you may want to reference in the new position proposal as I walk through some of these points, the proposal that I'm making to add the teaching position to the middle school to have 26 classroom teachers is really made with goal number 1 of the strategic plan in mind, and that's to ensure opportunities for the success of all students by providing a high quality and comprehensive instructional program. And it is our belief that teachers will be in a better position to differentiate instruction and meet the individual needs of students with more reasonable class sizes. Class sizes that exceed the guidelines can pose challenges for teachers to meet the individual needs of their students. Class sizes across the middle school could be brought into alignment with 26 teaching positions. We would not have that anomaly hanging out there in 5th grade. if you reference both the high school and Pond Cove's class sizes, you'll see that there are no other average class sizes across Pond Cove or the high school that are anticipated to exceed 19 students. So the 26 teaching position at the middle school would bring us in line not only within the the class sizes at the middle school, but across K-12. Our new and withdrawn historical data, which is one of the tabs in your reference that you've had for some time, shows that the range of new enrollments just in grade 5 alone has gone anywhere from 3 students moving in 2010-11 up to 11 students that we had in the 2015 school year. And we've only seen consecutive net increases going back to 2012, 2013 in the 5th grade. So that's all to say it's very likely that we will have students and families moving into the 5th grade, and we'll be faced with a decision of we're clearly going to exceed class sizes in the 5th grade, and now what are we going to do about it? So I'd rather be making those decisions if we can, understanding all of the difficulties around the budget, that's a decision that I'm hoping we can make at this end of the budget rather than during the summer or a time later on. It's very important to keep teachers in the classroom, to keep class sizes as low as they possibly can be. I stress the importance for response to intervention and the ability to be able to differentiate for our students. There's really, the numbers at the middle school are so tricky for next year. We are dancing right around these very tricky areas where there's only a 1 student difference between 5th grade and 7th grade, and we have a whole 1 teacher difference there. And so if we're making the case of class sizes and the number of teachers needed, one change in 1 teacher just keeps dancing us right around the edges of the reasonable class size guidelines. So they're very tricky numbers. We already know we have a couple of families. We have an enrollment coming at the end of this week, and we have other inquiries and things that are already happening. We already know we'll be adding an 8th grade student at the end of this week, which will take that number to 146, and we know those numbers always flux and change. So in terms of the first proposal, to conclude, we at the middle school firmly believe we need 26 classroom teaching positions to put us in line with what's happening K-12 and to have reasonable class sizes. I have a second proposal which I can go through now, or I can pause there for questions about the first.
No questions, just keep going.
Oh, sorry, keeping going. And I'm halfway through. I have a timer going.
You
The second
do.
is I direct your attention to the document entitled CEMS Intervention Data for 17-18, which is the second page of the handout that has the blue and the pink section to be added to the middle section of your binder. So the second aspect of the middle school budget that I wanted to speak to you about involves a proposal to maintain the second middle school interventionist position that is reflected for elimination in the staffing by school list, by staffing by school list in the school document. And I just want to underscore that the second middle school interventionist position is not a new position. That is a position that's currently in the budget. I'm not proposing to add something that's not already there and not currently being funded. The middle school currently has those 2 interventionist positions in the 16-17 budget. One of those positions has been reduced and had been split up to include some teaching some classes assigned to teach to that position to help with class sizes in past years. It was combined with gifted and talented. It has been vacant for the latter part of this year following some personnel changes. But that interventionist position is listed as a proposed cut for the 17-18 school year. We feel there's a compelling need to restore that interventionist position within the budget proposal to maintain the 2 positions for the middle school. And I'll refer you in part to the CEMS intervention data to help make that case. And these tables that you see with the blue and the pink, they include math at the top and literacy data at the bottom, including both the spring 2016 Empower Maine data and the winter 2017 NWA data for each cohort. You'll note that there isn't an NA for grade, listed for grade 5 for the NWA. Pond does not take the NWA. Kelly referenced this earlier. They take an assessment called the STAR. We're aware of the STAR numbers and the STAR data, but for the purposes of clarity and creating a chart, I put NA just so you understand that there are no NWA scores for 5th grade. We use these 2 data points not as our only data points. And in addition to the information that's utilized within our student support team, teacher observations, grades, referrals to our What I Need block, which is an intervention block, WIN extension, which is a 7th and 8th grade after school extended intervention time, information in students' IEPs, other assessment data to monitor and intervene with struggling students. The MEA, although it is one data point, and Kelly referenced this earlier, it's very hard for us to draw conclusions given it was a new test, given we don't have item analysis data to dig deeper. But it's data, and it's data that we have looked at here at the board level, and it's data that when looked at to look at some of the specifics of this, particularly in math, overall, of the 532 students at the middle school, we're showing a combined 192 students that are, according to the MEA Empower Me cut scores, that saying that 192 of those students are either well below or below on the end of MEA math, and 140 in literacy. If we were to only have one interventionist position to try to help with 192 students alone in math, it's an impossible task. When we layer onto that in literacy that we have 31 students well below and 109 students considered well below on the Empower Me, layering that on, that's 140 students that could be determined through analysis by the SST to require some intensive or other intervention to catch up. When we try to correlate that with our NWA data, we see some interesting correlations that might suggest there are some concerns being noted in the Empower, and there are some lack of correlations between Empower and NWA data that we still need to try to understand and explore. I won't pretend I can draw definitive conclusions about that, but the overall conclusion that we can draw is we know we have students that aren't quite where they need to be. However, we're measuring that. We need the personnel to be able to provide both literacy and math support. So by maintaining that second intervention position, we could allocate one of those positions to be strictly literacy. We'd have the other one be strictly math, and we would focus explicitly on providing direct student contact intervention services in literacy and math.
One clarifier, Mike, as we look at the spring 16, winter 17, grade 8, that's not cohort to cohort, right? That would be, like the spring 216 kids in 8th grade would now be high schoolers? I'm just trying to read left to right.
Right.
What the cohort flow is.
This is next year's grade 8.
This is
So
next year's grade 8.
So these are the students who will be in front of us at the middle school next year.
Okay.
So that would mean that they took the Empower Maine 2016 as 7th
Okay, so you're not
graders.
reporting on current cohort. These are all next year numbers.
These are
Thank you.
our
Okay.
5th through 8th graders for next year,
Okay.
and these are their cohort
Thank
data
you.
for Empower. And
So it says grade level 17, 18 on the side.
Gotcha. Thank you.
no
Thank you.
problem, yeah.
Right, 17, 18 grade level.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. So I'll go back to doing what I was doing, try to speed it up a little bit. At the bottom of page 4, Department 8800, Regular Instruction Middle School, you'll see the same accounts that we talked to about before. Oop, he did it within 15 minutes, good job. That you'll see before. I do want to point out that there is account number 1510 at the very bottom of page 4. It says stipend team leaders. That is for support leaders and team leaders in the schools. Every school has it, and it's based on the collective bargaining agreement for teachers and professional staff. So that's where that number comes from. I'm now going to page 5. And you'll see that we have benefits and retirement. I do want to point out professional services, account number 3400. That is for primarily accompanists and people that come into our school that we pay as a contracted service. A new account just below that, account number 5340, online textbooks. That is a new one that the Department of Ed is requiring. This is only for regular instruction in libraries, and it is literally for online textbooks. So that's a new account that they would like us to use if we do use online textbooks. And the other new account I'd like to point out is account number 8500. That's for field trip transportation for Chewonki. And that is the account that we charge when we take students to Chewonki, normally using our own buses. But what happens is when our buses are used for field trips or sports trips, instead of getting charged to the transportation line, they get broken out to the other departments, such as regular instruction, middle school, or co-curricular, or athletics. So you'll see that account pop up later on. We are now under Department 8805, guidance. These are all accounts that we've already seen through the other previous departments, so don't need to spend a lot of time on that. And if you have questions, please write them down and let us know. We can answer them in a more detailed, in-depth way on the 21st. So I'm on page 6 now. And the very top of page 6 is account number 1020, which is for salaries for ed techs. I just wanted to point out that last year, or this current budget, 16-17, we did cut that half full-time equivalent of an ed tech to help offset the cost of a LIT, which is a library and instructional technology support specialist. I'm having trouble with that one. And so continue down, a new account that I haven't spoken about before is account number 5340, software and apps subscriptions. This is also another account that the Maine Department of Ed is requiring that we use. And this is only for regular instruction and only for libraries, and it's for instructional software and apps for the actual classroom itself. This is not for like time clock software or absentee software or evaluation software. Those cannot be budgeted for in that type of account. So those are nothing, all the other accounts in that section are ones you'll see throughout the entire budget. Department 8816 has been moved to technology. It's now Department 9072. And we are now down to Department 8820, Office of the Principal. Those accounts are similar to what I spoke to regarding Pond Cove. Nothing unusual in those. And Department 8825, Improvement of Instruction, that has been moved to Department 9009. Department 8830, Health Services, this is the nurses. I do want to point out that what we did under Health Services, the nurses are very good about working together. So what we did is their account for professional development, travel, supplies, and dues and fees are the same for all 3 schools. And if they find that they need more money in one account, we can work with them to have savings in other accounts to offset it. So, as I said, this is a best guess estimate. I'm now on page 8, Department 8840, co-curricular middle school. The only new account here is, well, it's not new, I've talked about it before, is account number 8500, bus transportation. As I said, this, if we do use one of our buses for a field trip, this is where it would get charged. A lot of times what happens is the parents help pay for the costs of transportation on field trips and stuff, so it does not normally appear, most of the field trips don't appear in the budget. The last department under middle school is 8850, special ed resource room. As I said before, you'll see large increases because of moving teachers from one school to another, or moving ed techs from one school to another. And also the fact that we are getting rid of the department for self-contained classroom. So, we are now at the high school. Would you like to hear the high school section, or would you like to take a break?
Well,
Oh,
I want to make sure that Jeff gets his full 15 minutes, and we did sort of request maybe a 6:30 break, because I think this is a long
and
time to
I've
be
heard
sitting.
that I think some people would like a break, actually.
Yeah. So are you okay if
Yeah,
we
that's
hit
fine.
pause
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
15? You can practice
You can practice.
I think I've got it.
if you'd like. 5 minutes sound okay?
5 minutes?
Thank you.